What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Darian is Fishing. And today I want to go over with you 3 ledge fishing setups that you must have to be a great ledge fisherman. Now, you could always do 5, you could always do 10, and oftentimes, like today I've got 6 out. Oftentimes you'll see people with several ledge fishing baits out, but I know that not everyone can afford or has that, but truth be told, it's not necessary. Fortunately, I work for Quantum, so I get their rods and reels, and that helps me out because if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have as many rods and reels as I do. So I wanted to quickly go over the 3 rods and reels that are a must-have to be the best ledge fisherman you can be. I'm not even setting this up. You can see these were the 3 rods I had over here. And they are the 3 rods that I'm going to talk about today. No, that's a coincidence that they were all 3 together, but they are what I'm going to cover today. So I said there's 3 specific things. Now, yes, you can go into a lot more things than these 3. You can fine tune these to be more specific and whatever you want to do, but at the end of the day, you only need, I'm talking about a need, not a want. I want to have 20 rods out here when I'm ledge fishing. That way I can have different colors and everything just ready to go. But that's not really practical. We can't have 20 rods. There's schooling right here beside me. We can't have 20 rods. So I'm gonna pick the best 3. I'm gonna start with one that I think is the most important. Now, I think all of these have a very specific place in your arsenal for ledge fishing, and you've seen me throw all of these a lot. First off, I'm going to start with the rod and reel. This is a 7.4. Now, actually, before I even continue, all 3 of these rods are 7.4. I didn't intentionally set those up. These are the ones that I was using. This is a 7.4 heavy Quantum Smoke S3. This is a 7.3 to 1 Smoke HD. This has 17-pound line, and the lure is a big worm rigged on a stand-up head. This one specifically is a 6 Sense. It's called the Divine Shaky head. I just picked them up recently. I've started using them a ton actually here recently. 6 Sense Divine Shaky head. This one's 5/8 ounce, so it's a little bit bigger than a half, not quite a 3/4. It has a gigantic hook. And I'll just show you a little bit closer. You can see I've been rubbing, well, you probably can't see, but yeah. So it's got a flat stand-up side on the bottom. It's got a vertical line tie, so it doesn't hang up very much. And it's got a gigantic hook. I use a Zoom Magnum trick worm. Yeah, so this is basically the setup. And in this category, you know, the first rod that I'm going to talk about is a beefy rod and reel, a beefy line, and a big shaky head, but I'm more going to categorize this as a bottom dragging bait. So there's 2 specifics, and then a third one I'm going to just add in as complimentary. So the 2 specifics in this category, if you only had 3 rod and reels, is either going to be this stand-up worm or a football jig. I think both of those, majority of the time, probably going to get the same bites. It's just whatever you have more confidence in. I always have more confidence in this worm. Main reason I have more confidence in this worm. It doesn't have a lot of profile. It's not big and bulky. It falls pretty fast. You can feel everything on the bottom. A lot of times when you're fishing offshore, you're fishing a shell bar, or a brush pile, a rock pile, you know, maybe deep grass, old bridge pilings or something, but it's extremely important to be able to feel. The jig works great, but you can't always feel everything because the skirt is so bulky. When you're dragging it, and even when you cast it, it just falls so slow. Even this is a 3/4 ounce. It falls so slow. When you finally get it to the bottom, you just feel heavy weight. Now you can feel those rocks, but as you're dragging it, you just feel really heavy weight. Now the bite's really dramatic, and you know when you've got one. And sometimes if you're fishing really gnarly structures, you can feel those rocks or shells. But with this shaky head, you can literally picture yourself down there on the bottom of the lake looking at what's down there, because I can feel every single shell. I can feel when I hit a stump, because you feel hard, and then it gets a little mushy, but you know you're picking up on something because it's not a bite, and then you can feel it drop off, and then you feel back on those shells again. You know, I just climbed over a stump. And with this shaky head, that happens a lot. So the first setup for me to be the best offshore fisherman you can. Oh, and the third thing is a Carolina rig. Carolina rig is a extremely overlooked old school way of fishing. Not a lot of people throw it anymore because it's too slow, blah, blah, blah. I don't know how to tie it on. It's too much of a pain in the butt to tie it on. I promise you, a Carolina rig still gets a lot of bites. I throw it a lot. If I'm fishing a tournament specifically, every single time I have a Carolina rig tied on. It's just a bite getting machine. You can fish it so slow. You can literally count the shells, you can count the rocks, especially with a tungsten weight. I've been using a tungsten weight instead of that old lead egg weight, and man, you can really feel everything on the bottom. So my first category is a beefy rod, 7.4 heavy, and a shaky head. The reason for 7.4 and the reason that all these other two rods are 7.4, in my opinion, and I'm 6 foot tall, so probably average size, maybe, you know, I guess I might be a little taller than average, but a tall person could get away with a 7.6. I think anything over a 7.6 is absolutely ridiculous. And I think anything under maybe a 7.2 is too short. A 7 foot rod, you know, is perfect for pitching around docks. It's perfect for throwing little crankbaits. You know, a 7 foot rod is a really good rod, but when you're ledge fishing, you're throwing so far because you want to cover ground. And when you get a bite out there, just imagine if you made a 50 yard long, or say a 40 yard long cast, and it's 15 foot down. I don't know the math of how far that is, but you got a lot of line out there. And also that line is all the way through the water and it stretches. So when you finally get a bite, you have really got to reel your slack up quickly and really give it to those fish to hook them. A lot of times I'll fish with a guy who doesn't, is not familiar with ledge fishing, and he'll just kind of do this reel hook set thing and you never catch them. You have so much line out, you have to hit them. Anything under 7.2 is just too short. The distance, when you swing, the distance isn't far enough to drive that hook home hard. Now you'll hook them and you can catch them, but I'm talking about to be efficient and to be perfect. I think a 7.4 is perfect because it isn't as long as a 7.6, but it isn't as short as a 7 foot. So 7.4, this is a Smoke S3. Any of y'all that know about Quantum know that a Smoke is a really, really good rod series. They've always had it. And also I wanted to let you know and remind you that you can now buy anything Quantum on their website for 25% off by using the code down below. Like the code right here, you can screenshot it and just use it for whatever you want. Rods, reels, I don't know if they've got any apparel on their website. I don't know what all is actually going to be available, but I know that rods and reels will. So all of the products that I'm explaining to you, you can get for 25% off on their website by using the code right here on the screen. I'll also link the code at the very top of the description box. This code is good for forever. Oh, well, I guess until they shut the code off, but this is going to be a thing moving forward. Any of y'all that want to buy Quantum stuff, you can use my code and get 25% off. So next up is the Swimbait category. Also on a 7.4 heavy rod. This is more, honestly, this is a Quantum Accurist. And I'm throwing a 6:3 to 1 gear ratio reel. So a little bit slower reel, not the slowest. A little bit slower reel. This is a 7.4 heavy, but this is actually more of a medium heavy. This Accurist has a, I don't know if y'all can even see this. I know you can't, but it's got a parabolic bend. I want a parabolic bend, not a ton, and you would have to hold this rod to be able to understand it, but I love this rod for a swim bait. It loads up good on the top half of the rod as far as the rod gives a lot to that fish, but then it still has a lot of backbone in this lower half of the rod to really hit them with the hook and really get them. So I think that's important when throwing a swim bait. Now, in my swim bait category, now I know all of you ledge fishermen might disagree with what I'm about to say, but in the swim bait category, like I said, 7.4 heavy, slow, 6.3 to 1 reel. 15-pound line. I've been throwing the Scrounger with a jerky J a lot. I've been throwing this a pretty good bit. That's a 1/2 ounce head and a jerky J. I've also been throwing a regular Bastrix on a swimbait head, just a traditional paddle tail swimbait on a regular swimbait head. And also in this same category, I'm gonna put a hair jig. Now this is the part that a lot of you ledge fishermen might disagree with, but I don't. I think a hair jig and a swimbait have a lot of the same attributes. A hair jig is essentially extremely finesse version of a swimbait. But what I mean by that is, both these baits, you throw them out as far as you can, you let them sink to the bottom, and you want to keep their retrieve to the bottom the whole time. Now the difference with a hair jig is, it has literally no action. This skirt, I mean these feathers, they barely move. I mean just super very finesse style. You power fish this. It's heavy, this is 3/4 ounce, but it doesn't have a ton of action. That tail, I mean these feathers, they just barely wobble in the wind, in the water. So it's not technically like a swim bait. I'm just saying as far as the top 3, if you had to pick 3 baits, I definitely want that in my tackle box. The swim bait, key with the swim bait is keep it on the bottom, keep it close to the bottom. Ledge fish, if they're more than 2 foot off the bottom, 90% of the time, I don't think you can catch them. Now you might be able to, but you want ledge fish to be 2 foot from the bottom or less. And the closer they get to the bottom, the better you're gonna catch them. So if you just throw this swim bait out there, you start winding it back, and naturally the bait wants to rise up coming back to the boat. So as you reel it, the bait is gonna be lifting up and coming up to the boat. You gotta kill it. Feed it a little bit of slack, let it fall back to the bottom, then continue to reel. Then it's gonna go straight, then it's gonna start coming up again. Kill it, feed it some slack, or just press the button on your reel, let it fall back to the bottom, reel it again. You might do that 5 times on a cast, but it is absolutely the most important thing about throwing a swim bait is pay very close attention, because when you kill that bait, when you press your thumb on your spool, feed it 2 foot of slack, 3 foot of slack, and let it fall to the bottom, so many times that's when you get bit. And the hook set is not you don't have to do this crazy jerking, like skipping a jig and under a dock kind of hook set where you hit them really hard. Literally all you have to do is reel, and as you get that bite, just let the rod load up. That's where a medium heavy, or this is a heavy, but it's honestly, it is a medium heavy rod. You want that whole rod to load up, and then you got them. You don't have to do a crazy hook set. The hook is exposed and you're gonna hook them. So whether you like throwing the jerky J or whether you like throwing the regular swim bait. So you rig the traditional swim bait up on a regular swim bait hook, and most of the action comes from this really big boot tail, as you can see there. And so a lot of the action on this swim bait comes from the back half of the body. It swims a lot like that, if you can tell. So it's swimming a lot like this. The head is rolling a little bit, but the majority of the action comes from the tail. When you throw a jerky J, it's right the opposite. It does not even have a tail. It just has a straight tail, like a flute. But you rig it on a scrounger head, and the action comes from that scrounger. It's a cupped lip, basically like a soft, it's a soft bill. Kind of works the same as a crankbait does, except it's vertical instead of pointing down. But you get a lot of rolling side to side action with the entire bait, but the tail straight. So you get a lot of this motion. Again, you want to throw it out, let it sink to the bottom, give it 10 or 12 turns of the handle and keep it close to the bottom, and then just kill the bait, let it fall back to the bottom and keep doing it again. So setup number 2 to make you a great ledge fisherman is a swim bait or a hair jig. I'm categorizing those in the same category. Last but not least, and actually one of the most important, and this is a very specific tool to use. A lot of times once the fish get extremely fired up, or even to get them fired up, is something you see me throw a lot. Probably my favorite fishing lure or style of fishing that there is. Even more so probably than fishing a frog is ledge fishing, finding fish deep and catching them on a big crankbait. So this is a 7.4 glass crankbait rod. This is a Quantum Smoke HD reel, 6 to 1. What that means is every turn of the handle, the spool turns 6.6 times for every time the handle turns 1 time. So 6.6 is kind of a slower gear ratio. I want it slow, but I don't want it to be in the 5s. I don't want a 5-3 to 1. That's way too slow. And man, you just can't get a lot done with that, in my opinion. I guess it's good, but I would rather have the 6-speed and just slow it down as I would have the 5-speed and try to speed it up. So if I'm throwing a 6XD, I'm throwing it on 10 or 12 pound line, depending on the depth. That's light line. 10 pound is light line. So you want to make sure you're retying. And I wanted to show you, so in this category, I'm going to put 6XD size crankbaits as well as 10XD size crankbaits. I'm going to categorize these the same. So this is just going to be a deep crankbait category. And here's those 3 baits lined up. So this one's a Strike King 6XD. This is a Sense CB20 and a 10XD, Strike King 10XD. So the CB15 and a Strike King 6XD, very similar in size. They dive about the same depth. The one thing about the 6 Sense is they come with the best hooks stock available on a crankbait, in my opinion. I don't even know what kind they are. They're extremely good. 6 Sense has some really good colors as well. But around here, there's more Strike King is available around here. So I catch myself buying 6XDs a lot more than I do anything else. So that's a Strike King 6XD. Color doesn't matter a ton. I pretty much throw only a couple colors, but I don't think that's the color. Don't overthink the color. Get a shad color. I still catch a lot of fish on Sexy Shad, which was the first color that Strike King made in this thing. So 6XD and a 10XD. Do not throw these on the same tackle. Do not throw these on the same rods at all. But I wanted to categorize these in the same group because they are oversized crankbaits. They do dive really deep. The 10XD requires a 4th rod. So, you know, I'm kind of cheating on what I said, but the 10XD needs to be thrown on a 7, anything over a 7.6 rod. 7.10 is what I throw. I throw it on a 7.10 heavy Quantum Smoke S3 rod. It's a big, beefy, giant rod. This 10XD, I think they weigh 2 ounces, maybe 1.5 ounces. I think they weigh 2 ounces, or maybe more than that, but I'm pretty sure they weigh 2 ounces. You can throw this thing 1 mile. I mean, they literally throw forever, especially when you have that big rod, especially when you have 15 pound line on a bigger reel. I throw that on a Smoke HD reel as well. You can throw this thing a really long ways. So the key is you're burning that 10XD and it's wearing your arm out and wearing your arm out, but as soon as you get a bite, man, they freaking crush it. And you might have 60 or 70 yards of line out because of how far you can throw this thing. Especially if you're throwing with the wind, man, you can literally throw this thing forever. So when you hook into one, just wrench him in. Don't give him time to fight. Don't give him time to pull off. This bait is so big that when he's shaking his head down there, this is 2 ounces in front of his face. And as he's shaking and throwing this thing around, it's easy for the bait to knock the hook out. Well, then the fish comes off. So that's why you lose so many on a 10XD, is because this bait weighs so much and it gets to flailing around as they're jumping. You know, you lose a lot of them on a 10XD. And so that's my second tip. So that was it for the 6XD. But like a bait like this, like the ones that dive to, you know, I'm fishing this bait in 15 foot. It dives to about 17 foot, maybe on a good cast and 10 pound line. If you throw the CB20, it's gonna go down to 17, 18, 19 feet. I'm still gonna fish it in that 15 to 17 foot range. I want this bait digging the bottom, just dredging the bottom up. I want it kicking up mud. I want it kicking up shells. I want it making a ton of action. I want it just acting a fool down there. And so you fish it in 4 or 5 foot shallower, 3 or 4 foot shallower than the depth that the bait can run. That way it's just grinding in the bottom. And you'll see, like, a lot of my 10XDs, I fish them in such shallow water. I don't know if you'll be able to see this or not. You can't see this, but the bills of my 10XDs are grinded off because I'm throwing this 10XD in 10 to 15 foot. Now, the reason I've got them is so they dive down to 20, but in 10 or 15 foot, man, this thing is just grinding the bottom. A lot of times you'll get it back and it'll have mud on the lip still, just down there, just digging. So anyhow, that was that for the 10XD. For the 6XD, I'm throwing it on a 7.4 glass cranking rod, 6-6 reel, bigger. This is a Smoke HD reel, 10-pound line, and obviously the 6XD. And the deal about the 6XD is once you get the fish fired up, I like the 6XD the best, or just a big crankbait. You know, whether it is that 6 Sense CB15 or 20 or even a 25. What I like about this bait is how fast I can throw out there, burn the bait in, catch one, get it in the boat, unhook it, fire back out there again. Do the same thing. Catch one, unhook it, get my bait back, fire out there again. And it's something that you can do so fast. And several times I've seen you be able to catch 8 or 10 or 15 fish in a row, back to back casts. And I think the crankbait just so erratic, you can get it back in there to them so quickly. You can keep them biting, and so that's definitely the third, not the least important, probably one of the most important. But I'm not going to rate any of these above the next because I think they're all extremely important. A lot of times it takes the worm, you know, the big shaky head worm, to get confidence to go fish out deep. And then once you catch one or once you start feeling things, then you can throw these other two. Now, if you've been ledge fishing a lot, you know have a confidence when you see the fish on the graph. But a lot of times to get confidence, or even to be honest, there's days where, you know, I kind of lose my confidence and I pick up a shaky head, feel the bottom in there, I feel those shells, and I immediately get back confident again because I know I'm fishing the right stuff and I'm going to catch them. So here are my 3 setups again. Magnum trick worm or a Magnum shaky head size worm, 1/2 ounce at least, 3/4 ounce is my favorite. A crankbait, oversized crankbait, and a Swimbait of some sort. Again, all 3 of these setups and anything else that you want to buy from Quantum, the code will be right here. You can screenshot this or just remember it. 25% off their website, quantumfishing.com, I believe is their website. If you ever have a question about anything Quantum or just fishing in general, feel free to email me. I give my email out to the public. It's DarianIsFishing@gmail.com. So if you got any questions about ledge fishing, hey man, I'm debating on whether or not to buy this rod or that rod. I get a lot of emails, I get a lot of direct messages on social media, and so I'd love to help out with that. If there's anything I can do to help, I'm always here. I'm doing YouTube to help you guys and just share what I've learned with you. I know I get to fish a lot, I get to be out here a lot, I talk with the pros a lot just because of my work, and so I try to stay in the loop just so I'm not missing anything. And you know, living on Lake Guntersville, I get to learn a lot, and so that's why I started this YouTube stuff, is just so I could share my experiences out on the water with all of you. So I think that's pretty much it. That's my top 3 setups to becoming the best ledge fisherman that you can be. And side note, notice that I did not put a drop shot in there. A drop shot is an important tool. It is important for ledge fishing, especially this time of year. I'm literally pouring sweat right now, just talking to the camera. I haven't even done anything. I'm just sitting here. It's blazing hot. I did not put a drop shot in the top 3. I would have put a drop shot in the top 5. I would have put it at number 5. You don't have to have a drop shot to go ledge fishing. You don't have to have a Ned rig to go ledge fishing. They help, and sometimes, you know, they make your confidence go up just because you could get that mindset, well, man, if I could just get one to bite, I'd be good. And so you pick up the smallest thing you got, be it, you know, whether it's a shaky head or a Ned rig. I know all of you do it because I did it, you know, and I still do it. Especially when you go to a new place, man, just give me a shaky head and I'll catch one. And so you pick up a little Zoom trick worm, throw it out there on a shaky head, and you catch one and you get your confidence up. When you're ledge fishing though, I don't think you have to have that mindset. Know that they're gonna bite these things. Build confidence in them, and you're gonna learn how to be a better ledge fisherman, catch more fish offshore. And yeah, so hopefully all of this information that I've given you will help you, 1, get more confidence out on the water, 2, catch more fish, obviously. And so if there's anything I can do to help, please feel free to ask. Drop a comment down below if you've got any questions, or you can email me. If you like this information that I gave you, if you agree with this information I gave you, give this video a thumbs up. If you don't agree with the information, comment down below. I'm curious to see what all of y'all think about ledge fishing as well. Maybe you've got something that you like better than something that, you know, I brought up. So thanks to everyone for the support. This channel is growing like crazy. I can't believe, literally from 4th of July until the 4th of August, in 1 month, my channel grew nearly 9,000 subscribers in 1 month, which is absolutely the crazy. Now that's from like 1,000 to 10,000. I would have never guessed that. I just love fishing, and I say that all the time. I love fishing. I love being out here. And so I'm just thankful I get to share it with all of you guys. Thanks for following along. Thank you for watching this video. And as always, I'll see you on the next one. Hopefully it won't be as hot. Also, kayak came in the other day, and gonna start doing some kayak videos. So if you live in like Tennessee, Alabama, Georgia, and you got a fire like kayak hole, whether it be the river, or a pond, or a small lake, holler at me, because we'll go do a little kayak fishing and do some filming. So anyhow, see you guys on the next one.